Well, I want to welcome you to our first YouTube lecture of the year. As you know, we're not in class tonight, Tuesday, but we still have an assignment. I have posted, or I will be posting, the PowerPoint um, that goes along with this YouTube, and when once this is done, I'll post the URL for that. If you look at the PowerPoint notes for the class, the final, about beginning at about page 12 is the assignment or the exercise for the week. So please pay attention particularly to 12, 13, and 14. And those are what you'll need to address this week. And what I would like you to do is do that assignment and then sometime over this week post your responses, reactions to our class folder. We'll then also talk about this when we begin next with our class next week. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to send me a note on first class. The other issue is that I am going to be redrafting the assignment guidelines for our poster assignment that's due on April 20th, or the last day that we're meeting, and so that'll be posting towards the end of the week. But well, let's get started on this. I think this assignment this week, or this lecture this week, the readings for this week, perhaps might seem to fit a little bit closer with the conversation about disability than the last couple of weeks where we've had to make some leaps, because this week we're really talking about the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990 and then the subsequent amendments that happened in 2008. But we're really talking about the ADA with respect to the built environment for this week. And one of the things for us to think about is that the accessibility guidelines for the ADA were really adapted or adopted in 1991. And in particular, we want to pay attention to are Title II and Title III. One of the ways to gain a little bit of familiarity with the ADA is perhaps go on, do a search for the ADA, and read the actual text, and particularly pay attention to Title II and III. And part of what we're going to have this conversation about this week and next week, as well as I think we've been having a little bit about, is really the conversation about the politics of space, and really spaces and what those places we occupy, whether we're talking about a classroom, whether we're talking about a stadium that we go to, public spaces, libraries, whatnot, really are mediated by an intersection of social, political, and economic ideology about who belongs there, who doesn't belong there, what do we need to do to make those spaces available and possible, accessible for individuals, what are we willing to spend money on, what are we not willing to spend money on. And we're also talking about this built environment. A built environment design is a place where we really most often see the interaction between a political ideology or belief systems about politics, bricks and mortars. And we've posted a couple of pictures in there about for you to look at the picture of a bank or area, and one of the questions is what ideologies are reflected there, for you to think about that. But really, when we're thinking about built environments, we're thinking about the ideologies that govern them, that reflect the individual rights, the imposition of social control, who belongs, who doesn't belong, where you're supposed to be. Built environments clearly are governed by laws that how tall buildings should be, how wide doors should be, who controls access, even where we hold our classroom. If you think about it, the whole notion that doors get locked at 4:30 or 5 o'clock at night, that controlling of access. One of the questions perhaps we should also take up front is just give a definition of a couple of the terms that I've used. One is ideology. We've provided a definition that comes from Wikipedia. There are a variety of definitions of ideology, but it's really a set of aims and ideas that direct one's goals, expectations, and actions. A comprehensive vision, what you believe in, what you see in, is a way of looking at things as in common sense or several tendencies. A set of ideas proposed by the dominant or the more powerful class of society that gets imposed to all members of society. And when I mentioned the issue of social control, we don't often think about this, but really our built environments provides a sense of social control. And social control includes those mechanisms that regulate our behavior for individuals and groups, leading to conformity, compliance, rules, norms given sanctions, what we're supposed to do in some places, what we're not supposed to do, where permissible behaviors, thinking about all of that. We also come in here in terms of the conversation about individual rights. Clearly within the ADA, one of the things where there was an issue response to categorical rights, but also what happens to our individual rights. In contrast, do we have a right what are the rights, where do we belong? I provided you a definition of individual rights, and you can look at that over the course of the week. I don't need to read that to you. But when we think about laws that govern space, the space we occupy, our stores, the university, post office, those kinds of things, public and private spaces determined by ownership. Those are kind of laws there, and who owns that space, whether it's some store that I own or the university that's owned by the state. The ADA legislates how space should be defined to provide, and this is really important, reasonable accommodation to, quote, disabled people. And principally they were talking about people like disabled users, wheelchair users, deaf, blind, etc. And think about the issue of reasonable accommodation under the ADA. And clearly there's a limit there for us to think about. And reasonable accommodation is the issue in terms of saying, what do I reasonably have to provide for you? Now, that may not be the same or equal access. If I can provide an opportunity for you to participate in a different way, is that reasonable? If I could say that reasonable access would being able to offer somebody another classroom, or another opportunity to meet with the instructor, so that, say, if you couldn't get into my office for whatever reason, reasonable access might be for me to decide to meet you at the library, for me to decide to meet you someplace else. Not necessarily giving you the choice, but the issue of reasonable accommodation. So I would encourage you to look that over. When we look at spaces, really think about the spaces and who the spaces are designed for, what size. If you have a chance, go to the Collins Center sometime and just kind of look in there and think about who that space is designed for. Look at the Alfond Arena, who that space is designed for, who belongs there. Look at your classroom spaces. Really what I would like you to do is kind of thinking about those issues, thinking about the readings that we've provided, is a question for you to answer. How is it decided, and who decides how our building should be built? Who's involved in that decision making? And who controls those decisions about how the structures of entrances or exits are supposed to be done? How do we lay out buildings in the community that encourage or discourage community participation? Are buildings, parks, streets, sidewalks, etc., welcoming to all people? Kind of, in addition, can you get there? Do you feel safe there? Do you feel wanted there? Is this a place where you feel like it should, someplace you can go, or should you stay away? So over the next week, I'd like you to visit a building from each of the following categories. I'd like you to visit a courthouse building, a bank building, a medical office, a coffee bar, you could guess at Starbucks or the Oak Room, and answer the questions on the following slide for each building, and then post those answers to the website. And what I want you to do is look at the building in terms of messages. What messages flow from the form and function of the space? What about the inside of the building helps you feel like it's okay for you to be there? What about the inside of the building makes you feel unwelcome? What are some of the characteristics of the building that encourage you to enter? Are there characteristics that make you want to enter? Are there characteristics that make you want to stay away? And how does the building structure disable you if it does? How does it not disable? Remember here to address your feelings, not just the physical structure of the barrier, but how do you feel in your responses to the physical design and the structure. Take a time, look at these, imagine these access issues on multiple levels. If you have any questions whatsoever, don't hesitate to send me a first class email. Please respond to the class folder so that we can use these as part of a class conversation that we'll have next Tuesday night. I'm sorry I couldn't be with you tonight. Have a good week, and I will be posting, as I said, by the end of the week, some better guidelines for our project for the final year. So thank you very much.